Hello, team. It's time for the daily detangler. Well, this has been a weird day. It's a good day for me to work on the control detangler. Today's been out of control. I started this detangler that cracked it open at about 6:45 this morning, and I worked on it in 5-minute increments throughout the day, and it is 10 o'clock p.m. So I'm not turning my video on, and I'm cooked. But I want to do this detangler, and it's just weird that I picked the control detangler today, and I almost switched it. But tangles, brain power, and influence are what I'm sticking with, and we're going to talk about detangling control. The control tangle is something that I became really familiar with for many, many years. It's probably the first tangle that I encountered on a regular basis and came to grips with the fact that control is a myth, really, and the idea that I can control things is a bit of a joke, especially in an ecosystem world. I came to that realization, 20 years ago, but the other side of it is me putting out things, outputs, and putting myself out there, and the feeling that I need to be in control when I put myself out there. In other words, because I'm hang gliding, I need to be in control, not recognizing the wind is going to take me a lot of places. Or when I put myself out there in slide format, I can't be not like I cannot be in control of what people think or how they respond. Yet I, you know, used to believe that I was, right? That because I put it out there, surely um, people would understand it because I did it and I did the work for them. I did the thinking for them. Therefore, it'll be easy for them to understand. That side of the control tangle is something that's new to me, and I've discovered through this journey of detangling over the course of a year or so. So when I put this out, I have no idea how you're going to respond. I have no idea what you're going to think. I have no idea, and part of me is excited about that. And I've moved beyond this idea of it's going to drive me nuts not knowing or wondering what's going to happen to I wonder what's going on in your head. I'd love to hear what you think. Because our brain is wired to control, all of us try to make sense of what's happening. There's this part of the brain called the amygdala, and it's hardwired to resist change. It interprets everything that's going on, and there's so much going on. It interprets that as a bad thing. It's a threat. And the more change we experience without coming to grips with the control tangle, the more that tangle grips us and knots us up, the more hormones the amygdala releases, and the more we're triggered with fight or flight. I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight and freeze, right? Catalyst put that out in the Catalyst Conundrum number 4 or 5, and he talked about that. But when you look at the idea of we're going to put ourselves out there, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to share this slide. I'm going to share this concept. I'm going to share what I'm thinking. I'm going to put my books together. I'm going to put a book together, and I'm going to, no matter what, I believe that people are going to interpret that completely different. Also, I'm going to put myself out there, and the brain is going to try to protect me. So when people give me feedback, I'm not going to process it. And if people ask me to do something different and ask me to make an adjustment, I'm going to fight it because the brain doesn't like change. My body kicks in to actually protect me from that change. And when the brain detects something that's happening outside of my normal, tolerance, I'm gonna get triggered, and my tolerance for this type of control tangle was pretty low. I used to think, I've got a PhD, I'm the smartest guy in the room, everybody will understand me, and therefore there is no questioning what I say, darn it. And so if you ask me questions or you ask me a hard question, I'm going to get frustrated, I'm going to get triggered. And it's like a thermostat. The more somebody asks me, the more they poke on me, the more they ask me a simple question that I don't know the answer to, the more I'm going to get triggered, and it's going to agitate me. And just like a thermostat in a car, the more heat, the brain has a similar function. It auto corrects. It is triggered and doesn't know what to do, and it creates a tangle that becomes a barrier to performance. And this is the old, you know, infamous shooting myself in the foot. This is where that comes from. I shoot myself in the foot all the time. And it's because I've allowed myself to feel like I'm out of control when really control is a myth in the first place. So when I think about being in the normal range of change, and the normal range of not having control, right? Then the ability to kind of surrender to the complexity and the ambiguity and the volatility and the fact that other smart people are going to rip it to shreds. When I surrender myself to the process and trust it, I can think about things in terms of, am I adapting or am I anchoring myself and digging in? And I think for me, my normal response to the control tangle was to dig in and dig my heels in and get more stubborn, as opposed to figuring out, how do I adapt? And I think one of the things that was really huge for me was when Catalyst put out the director's cuts, and we're talking about cave people and how human nature lets us adapt and overcome, and how, look how far we've all come because we've embraced this idea of change. And the fact that we've adapted has allowed our species not only to survive, but to do some amazing things. Why can't I do that? Right? And, is it about what I've already know, or is it about what insight I gain? How do I find the excitement in finding a new insight? How do I find the thrill in the tedious work? How do I find the energy in people, pinataing, whacking my idea like a pinata and like a stick? So, that leads me to when I think about detangling control, what's more valuable to the team? Is it, me being controlling and understanding everything and directing, or is it adapting, taking action, learning, and influencing, not because I said, but because I did? Influencing because I did and I'm doing. And that influence creates energy, creates emotion and positive vibes that other people can feed off of. And I can get energy from them because they influence me, because they realize that also controlling the situation is not the normal that we're looking for. Influencing because we've act is what we're looking for. That's the type of normal we need to engage. And the normal is we're constantly evolving. Therefore, control is a myth. And if I'm going to dig my heels in and get defensive because people don't like my ideas, that's going to actually hold me back from growth. And that's going to cause me to have status quo. That's going to cause me to be part of the challenge and part of the problem, not part of the go forward solution. So if I want to engage, with influence, how would I do that? What would I say? I'd say, I need to work on this, but I was like trying to figure out what to say. And there are things that we say as a team, like, hey, are we clear on what we're trying to do? Or what do you think? Or what are you observing? I could try doing that more. I could say those things. I could ask myself if there's a better way. I can try to relate a concept. I can write things down and ask people what they think. I can put out a daily detangler and, maybe somebody will react. And when they do, I can engage with curiosity. And so what if people don't react? Why does that bother me? Used to drive me nuts. Nobody's reacting. Nobody's saying anything. Well, you know what? That's not the point. The point is for me to put this out and see what happens. And I'm advancing, I'm growing, and I'm gaining influence because I'm doing that. And it's helping me in a lot of other places. So as Ori Brofman said, the opposite of control is enablement. The opposite of control is also, to me, this idea of influence. The opposite of control is this idea of orchestration, that we're connecting the dots, that we're not trying to direct, delegate, demand, tell people what to do. We're trying to empower and equip and create the right conditions for emergence to happen, which means we're trying to enable the environment for growth to occur. We're talking about the soil and the sun and the water to help people grow. We're not talking about micromanaging a seed and a seedling and yelling at it to grow. We're talking about the environment. We're enabling that, because the opposite of control is enablement. The opposite of control is orchestration and influencing. And that's this idea I was trying to talk about and think about and try and push myself to ride up. If the opposite of control is enablement and orchestration is how we enable, what does orchestration help us do? What kind of conditions can I impact? What influence can I have to grow the company and grow the people in it? I can think about influencing, connecting the dots, and then seeing what happens, because I've relieved myself of the burden of trying to control the situation. I've also surrendered myself to the idea that putting something out there means I must control what people think, and that's a myth. And I need to embrace that and be excited that humans are engaging in what I put out, and that's the process. And that's the process. So that's, to me, the idea of control, the control tangle, and the opposite of control is enablement and influence, and detangling myself by putting things out there with the positive view that when I put things out there, I'm engaging in the universe and I'm creating the environment that creates more of a flywheel to influence. And there's a mystery kind of in that I'm not used to, but that's what the control tangle does. When I free myself from that tangle, I'm able to trust the process, principle number 4. I'm also able to embrace conflict without being defensive, principle number 5. So that's the daily detangler for today. Sorry it's later in the day, but that's been my fascinating journey of trying to build a control detangler for 14 hours in 5-minute increments in a day that I felt like I had no control. That was just weird, and then to put it out there. So hopefully that makes sense. And who cares what you think? No, just kidding. I can't control what you think. All right. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.